Jalen Hurts has achieved immortality, winning the Super Bowl against the Thanos of the NFL, and winning the Super Bowl MVP as well. But things weren't always as good for Mr. Hurts. There was a time Jalen's future NFL career was in serious jeopardy, and things could have played out much differently than they have today. So let's take a look back at the roller coaster of a career Jalen Hurts has had, and how it's all led up to this point. Back in 2014, Jalen Hurts was a star quarterback for the Channelview Falcons, a high school in Channelview, Texas, just outside of Houston. He managed to record 1,958 passing yards, 16 passing touchdowns, 4 interceptions, along with 750 rushing yards and 17 rushing touchdowns. In 2015, he was even better with 18 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 941 rushing yards, and again, 17 rushing touchdowns. His father was also one of the coaches on the football team. But Jalen did not only do football, he was also competitive in powerlifting. He recorded a personal best squat of 570 pounds, a bench press of 280 pounds, and a deadlift of 585 pounds. I'm telling you, if he was a powerlifter instead of a quarterback, dude would be hitting 700-pound squats right now. And I truly believe that. Dude is unreal. With his great high school football and his raw strength, he became a top prospect for colleges, ranking 231 in the country and 31 in the state of Texas. And he was also rated a 4-star recruit. He was recruited by Mississippi State, Texas A&M, and Alabama. He would ultimately choose the Alabama Crimson Tide to start his college career. Jalen's first year at Alabama was overall pretty good. He was a freshman quarterback. He threw 23 passing touchdowns, 9 INTs, and rushed for 954 yards, along with 13 rushing touchdowns, leading the Crimson Tide to an undefeated 13-0 record. In the Peach Bowl, Jalen didn't have to do much and only passed for 57 yards, but this would still be enough to defeat the Washington Huskies 24-7, advancing to the national championship. In the championship game, the Crimson Tide will be in the rematch of the previous year's championship game against the Clemson Tigers. In last year's game, they had a very close one, led by Derrick Henry and down by 3 heading into the fourth. The Tide locked in and defeated the Tigers, winning by 5. But this time around, Clemson is looking for revenge, and once again, the two teams had a close game. Going into the fourth quarter, the Crimson Tide had a convincing 10-point lead, but unfortunately, the future massage boogeyman would come out and play great, scoring 2 touchdowns, putting the Tigers back in the lead. Now, Jalen Hurts has not played good this game, arguably his worst game in his college career so far, but he takes back the lead with a 30-yard rushing touchdown, giving the Crimson Tide a lead with 2 minutes to go. But as perfect as the Crimson Tide have been this season, they would not stay perfect, as Deshaun Watson leads the Tigers down into the Crimson Tide on the 2-yard line.
Watson, touchdown!
Watson to Renfro, game over. Alabama's perfect season was not meant to be. The Clemson Tigers are national champions. Now you're at this point, you're probably thinking, how is Jalen's career a roller coaster? For the most part, it's been really good. He had a very successful first year at college, getting his team all the way to the finals. Sure, he lost, but still got to the finals in a close game. What's so bad about that? Well, Jalen's career would flip on its head the following season, and the reason it would flip on its head is because of a young man from Hawaii. After the loss in the national championship game, Jalen and the Crimson Tide would get back to work, and they got another impressive record at 11-1. However, Jalen's production had dropped since last season, getting only 17 passing touchdowns, 855 rushing yards, and 8 rushing touchdowns. Still a solid year, but a drop-off from his freshman year. Jalen and the Tide would take care of the Clemson Tigers in the Sugar Bowl and defeating them handily 24-6. A game where Jalen Hurts played pretty good. With this win, it would take him back to the national championship game, this time against the Georgia Bulldogs. And in this game, Jalen Hurts did not play good. And at halftime, they were down 13-0, and Jalen Hurts was benched, only passing for 3 for 8 and 21 yards and missing throws and holding onto the ball too long. This would force Nick Saban to bench Jalen Hurts for the 19-year-old freshman Tua Tagovailoa. And halfway through the third quarter, they were down 20-7. But what would happen next would change Jalen Hurts' college career forever.
As all night, hit hard, spinning around, trying to escape, and he's in the clear. The front, the lefty. Fires downfield. Judy goes up. Plenty of time. Surveying the field. Fires end zone. Touchdown! Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
Tua, at 19 years old in the biggest game of his life, came back from 13 in the national championship game and defeated the Georgia Bulldogs in overtime. Jalen Hurts' career would forever change on this day. He started 2 straight years just to get benched in the biggest game of his life for his backup to go in and win the game. Brutal stuff. But even with this, Jalen Hurts was all smiles, saying how happy he was for Tua and told Tua at halftime to ball, play your game. Despite being benched, Jalen was still positive and was happy for his friend Tua. And for the 2018 season, Tua would start and play very well, and the Tide were once again a top team at 12-0, and Tua had impressive stats with nearly 4,000 passing yards, 43 passing touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions. Tua was one of the best college quarterbacks that year, and it all came down to the final game in the regular season, the SEC Championship game, where they would face the Georgia Bulldogs once again. And in this game, the Bulldogs were beating up the Tide, taking a commanding 28-14 lead and nearly going up 31-14, but that wouldn't happen because of a missed field goal. And overall, Tua was not playing great. He was 10 for 25, 160 yards, 1 passing touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And the Crimson Tide would get a touchdown, making the score closer, but the next drive, Tua would hurt his ankle and would have to miss the rest of the game. Meaning, in poetic fashion, not even 1 year ago today, Jalen Hurts would be benched for Tua against Georgia, and now 11 months later, Tua is hurt and Jalen Hurts is in. Now, at this point in his career, Jalen Hurts doesn't know it, Tua doesn't know it, none of us know it, but this is quite possibly the most important moment of Jalen Hurts' career.
Getting some pressure down the middle, he throws a striker man. Hurts trying to run away from the heat, lofts one on the sideline as it caught his feet, now starts to use his feet. Throws on the run, touchdown Judy. Jalen Hurts looking for more. Going to the far sideline, he's got Waddle again. 16 quarterback draw, Jalen Hurts, touchdown.
Leading a comeback, a victory versus the Georgia Bulldogs in the fourth quarter, securing the SEC Championship for Alabama, an emotional victory for the Crimson Tide. Even Coach Saban was getting choked up talking about Jalen Hurts after the game.
I'm so proud of this guy for what he's done this year, I can't even tell you.
The Crimson Tide would go on to lose in the national championship, but this moment would not be forgotten for the Alabama Crimson Tide fans for years to come. And this would spawn Jalen's last ride for the Tide. As Alabama committed to Tua, Jalen would soon find a new home as he would transfer to Oklahoma to go alongside the quarterback guru Lincoln Riley, thus entering a new chapter in Jalen's career. So now Jalen is on a new team, and now he's got a new line, new weapons, and a new head coach. And Jalen Hurts is finally letting loose.
Hurts off his back foot. Oh, what a nice throw. Jalen Hurts with time. Lofts one in the air. Over the shakes his eyes down, takes off. Jalen Hurts, this is what he does best. Just like that, touchdown.
Jalen Hurts has finally blossomed into a great passer as he passed for 32 passing touchdowns and only 8 interceptions and rushing for 1,300 yards and 20 rushing touchdowns. Jalen was on a great run and got the Oklahoma Sooners into the playoffs with a rank of 4 of all teams in the NCAA and finishing second in the Heisman voting and actually beating his former teammate Tua in votes, just falling short to Joe Burrow's monster year at LSU. Jalen and his Sooners would get dismantled by Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson, but still the Sooners and Hurts had a great year, and with this great season, it made Jalen Hurts a great prospect to be drafted in the NFL. And in 2022, in the second round with pick 53, the Eagles had their pick.
The Philadelphia Eagles select Jalen Hurts, quarterback, Oklahoma.
Now, you want to know something crazy to put on top of Jalen Hurts' wild career? The reasoning of Jalen Hurts' pick by the Eagles was because of something that happened back in the 2019-2020 season. Let's flash back to the 2019 season. The Eagles and Carson Wentz have had a rocky road. A great season in 2017, an MVP-like season, ending with a Super Bowl win, but not by Wentz, by his backup Foles because of an injury. The next season, Wentz and the Eagles struggled before he left with another injury at 6-7. The playoffs are pretty much out of the question until they put Foles in and they took them back to the playoffs. Now, going into this year, Wentz needed to prove to the Eagles he was their guy. And after struggling early, Carson Wentz got hot and finished the year with 4,000 passing yards, 27 passing touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, and beating the Cowboys in a big game in Week 16, giving the Eagles a playoff berth. Wentz, who has struggled with injuries for all his career, finally comes back and leads the Eagles to the playoffs and has a very good season. Now this is where it comes all crashing down. In the wildcard game against Seattle, one of the first few plays the Eagles have, this happens.
25 now. Wentz off the fake, looking around, taking down.
Boom! That's it. That's the play where the Eagles needed to draft another quarterback. If Carson Wentz played this game, they had a good chance of winning. And if they didn't win, that's fine. They would have stuck with him anyways. The only reason they drafted Hurts here is because of Carson Wentz's constant injuries. And this injury by Wentz was the last dagger as they would draft Jalen Hurts a few months later in the 2020 draft. And Jalen Hurts in his rookie year didn't do much. He mainly sat behind Wentz, but eventually Wentz would get benched, putting the young Hurts in. And overall, he was shaky, but he still had some flashy plays and would build upon this in the future. After Doug Peterson did career unaliving against Washington by benching Hurts in a very winnable game in Week 17, he was fired. And the Eagles would hire a new head coach, that being Nick Sirianni. who didn't make the best first impression, but still, he was the Eagles head coach moving forward. And in the 2021 season for Hurts, he overall played just okay. He was getting settled into a new Eagles system. He had a new rookie wide receiver in Devontae Smith, who made a good impact on the team and shut down the being too small for the NFL allegations. Hurts played 15 games, passed for 3,100 yards, 16 passing touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, and rushing for 784 yards and 10 touchdowns. The Eagles started off 2-5, but finished strong with 7-2, giving them a 9-8 record, and this would give them a playoff berth. And with this playoff berth would come consequences, as a lot of their wins were against not very good teams. And in their first game, they would face a 2 seed, that being the defending Super Bowl champs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Bucs were a flat-out better team, and the Eagles would lose 31-15, not scoring a single point in the fourth quarter. And Jalen Hurts did not play good. He actually played pretty bad, but it's his first playoff game against Tom Brady, so there's always room for improvement. And this would happen in the next season.
Good protection for Jalen Hurts, who takes a shot, and he's got A.J. Brown.
Good protection again, launched downfield. Watkins wide open, touchdown.
And 8. Down the field they go, and he's got a second touchdown.
And in the 2022 season, Jalen Hurts and the Eagles were on fire. Jalen Hurts put on a clinic this season. His pass game was the best it's ever been. The running game was lethal as always. And of course, the introduction of the tush push. The Eagles were the last team to go undefeated in 2022 and were hot at 13-2. But a Week 16 win against Chicago caused some concern as Jalen Hurts sprained his right shoulder, putting him out for 2 weeks. The next week, the Eagles and Cowboys would have a great game, with the Cowboys just edging out the Hurtless Eagles. And the next week, they would still have no Hurts, and the Saints would upset them, giving the Eagles a scare. They could actually even win their division. But fortunately, Hurts would come back in Week 18, defeating the Giants and securing the 1 seed for the NFC, and having the best overall record in the NFL as well. In the division round, the Eagles faced the Giants, and it was an ass whooping. The Eagles took care of business, winning 34-7. Jalen Hurts overall played a very good game, recording 3 total touchdowns. The next week, the championship game against the Niners, led by rookie Brock Purdy. And the game was close at first, but once Brock Purdy went down, the Eagles took care of business, dismantling the San Francisco 49ers. Hurts had a decent game, nothing crazy for stats, but he still made some pretty big throws and led the Eagles to the victory. Now, the Eagles have advanced to the Super Bowl, a near flawless team. Only one loss when Jalen Hurts started, and now they're facing the Kansas City Chiefs, led by Patrick Mahomes, who has a hurt ankle. The start of this game was the Eagles' defensive line getting to Mahomes, and this would secure the Eagles' win. But we didn't get that. We got a shootout.
Got to go for it, surging forward is Mahomes, looking that way, throwing that way. Kelsey got it, touchdown. Has all day, loaded up, taking a shot, looking for A.J. Brown. He's got it. Quarterback draw, nowhere to go, the ball is loose. Sitting on, he's going to score. Quarterback run, Hurts using his legs, stays up, and room to run. Jalen Hurts inside. Now Hurts on the keep, has a seam, and Jalen Hurts in. Pacheco right up the gut and in. Quick throw. Tony's got it. Tony walks in. Plays. Blitz coming. Mahomes, man wide open. Touchdown.
A lot of people questioning Hurts if he could live up to the moment, and he in fact did, throwing for over 300 yards, 1 passing touchdown, 70% completion percentage. On top of that, 70 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Outside of a fumble, Hurts played a flawless game, and the moment was not too big for Hurts, making huge throws, making huge plays in the biggest game of his life. But even with his great play, it wouldn't matter, as Kansas City drove down to the Philadelphia 20. They're on 3rd down, there's a minute 50 left, but unfortunately, this happens.
End zone incomplete. Juju Smith-Schuster couldn't catch up. There's a flag at the 10.
And that would be it for the Eagles. Butker kicks the game-winning field goal. The Eagles have no time left. It's over. An amazing season for the Eagles, ending in failure. The defense has been terrorizing offenses all year, and they couldn't get 1 sack on a hurt Mahomes. But also, the guy who made the field for the Super Bowl also used to work for the Chiefs and may have given the Chiefs players a heads up on the field and the conditions, but that's not important right now. What's important is the defense let the team down, and Jalen Hurts had a great game, but it was all for nothing. And with this loss, it would spell upcoming disaster for the Eagles next season. Jalen Hurts would get a huge 5-year, $255 million contract from the Eagles in the offseason, cementing him as the starter for years to come. And starting for the next year, the Eagles were back to normal, winning games, doing the tush push. Hurts is playing good, along with the defense. The team has a 10-1 record and is the #1 team in the NFL. But something feels off about the Eagles. Their mojo they had last year just doesn't feel the same. The chemistry is off and the players don't look on the same page. A team source mentioned the previous year that they were having fun playing, but this year every week was just like, man, we just lost the Super Bowl. And growing tension between Jalen Hurts and head coach Nick Sirianni was foretelling of future disaster. And despite their 10-1 record, the Eagles would come down fast. In Week 13, they would have a rematch of their NFC Championship game against the San Francisco 49ers, this time with a healthy Brock Purdy. And after one quarter, the Eagles were up by 6. But halfway through the second quarter and on, it would be the downfall of this Eagles team. Catastrophe sets in. The Niners kick the out of the 10-1 Eagles, embarrassing them on their home field. But this would only be the beginning, as next week against the rival Cowboys, they would receive another beating at the hands of Dallas, going from the number 1 seed in the entire league to 10-1 to getting beat down back-to-back weeks. Next week, they would get back on track as they faced the Geno Smithless Seahawks, as Drew Lock was in. The Eagles were leading all of this game, and the game was going to be wrapped up with an Eagles win, and this game would pretty much wrap up the Eagles division for them. But Drew Lock had other plans.
Lock, end zone, it is caught, touchdown!
3 losses in a row. The next week, they squeak out a win against the woeful Giants, but barely beat them. And then on to Week 17 against the Cardinals. Kyler Murray, who's only played half the season, and the Eagles are up 21-6, and the worst thing possible happens.
Second and goal. In the flats, it's Carter with the catch. Breaks a tackle. He gets away from Josh Sweat. Keeps the play alive. Lofts for Connor. Pressure coming. End zone. Wilson. Touchdown. On second and goal. Connor again. He's in for the Cardinal touchdown.
The Eagles have officially blown it. They had a 2-game lead ahead of Dallas for the division, yet they lost to a backup QB and a 4-win Cardinals team. The team has imploded. The defense was bad. Hurts was off, and the team was losing faith in Sirianni. And the season would culminate in the worst way with an embarrassing loss to the Giants in Week 18. Then a wild card game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The team's chemistry was so off, A.J. Brown got his teammates to do escape rooms together to improve their chemistry. I gotta respect their commitment, but it wouldn't matter, as the team was far from saved, as they got destroyed by the Bucs in the wild card round. From leading the Super Bowl for 3 quarters to losing to imploding the following season, where do you go from here? Well, the good thing about hitting rock bottom is there's only one way to go.
Saquon is going to the Eagles. Thanking everyone on a tweet for 6 years with the Giants.
The Eagles, after their implosion last season, go back to basics. They came after Patricia of DC duties and got Vic Fangio, who's been a good DC for years, and got a young OC in Kellen Moore to take control of the offense. And of course, Saquon Barkley, whom came from the rival Giants. And they fixed their suspect secondary with 2 rookie studs, Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. But even with all these fixes and Hurts' excitement of playing with Saquon, there was still tension between Hurts and Sirianni that could spell future disaster for the season. The hiring of Kellen Moore would hopefully bridge the gap between the two and reunite them as a good team once again. And well, you know the title of this video. The Eagles were extremely dominant. The defense was once again great, and their secondary was no longer Swiss cheese. And although Jalen Hurts' stats weren't breathtaking, he was still playing very good, but none of that compares to Saquon Barkley rushing for 2,000 yards in 16 games at the age of 27 years old. Saquon, one of the best running back seasons ever, and this Eagles team was damn good. They shut down the red-hot Ravens in Lamar Jackson, who was on a tear this year, and they were up by 2 scores with 20 seconds left in the game. Outside of a whooping by the Bucs in Week 4, the Eagles were pure dominant. But even with the success, one thing laid on the Eagles' necks: Jalen Hurts, who has been heavily criticized each week for just being a Saquon Barkley handoff merchant, and was considered a passenger on this great Eagles team. And although the defense is great and Barkley was sensational, Sirianni was causing some issues with trash-talking his own fans and causing unwanted media attention to the team as well. But even with all this, one thing was for sure: the Eagles were winning. And despite his season not having crazy stats, Hurts would truly blossom in the playoffs. In the wild card game versus the Packers, the defense was sharp, but Jalen Hurts also played very good, accounting for 2 passing touchdowns, leading the Eagles past the Packers. In the divisional round, they would have a tough matchup against the Rams, where Hurts would again play a solid game, and it's in the snow. And of course, Barkley tearing up the defense as usual, and a clutch play by Jalen Carter would secure the Eagles' victory. Then the championship game against the underdog Commanders led by rookie Jaden Daniels. And although Daniels did his best, the Commanders could not stop the Eagles offense, putting up 50 points. Barkley was great as usual, and Jalen Hurts was great as well, getting 4 total touchdowns. The Eagles were the NFC champions, meaning they punched their ticket to the Super Bowl. And this time, it would be against the same team they lost to 2 years ago, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are off 2 Super Bowl wins in a row and are on the cusp of history, as if they win Sunday, they would become the first team ever to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. While Jalen Hurts is trying to be the first quarterback since John Elway to win a Super Bowl after losing his first one. A main story of this game was stopping Saquon Barkley. If the Chiefs could stop Saquon Barkley, they would win. And for the most part in this game, the Chiefs did. They stopped Saquon Barkley, only holding him to 2.8 yards per carry. But one thing the Chiefs couldn't do was stop Jalen Hurts.
Got a lot of time. Over the middle, he goes wide open. It's Dallas Goedert coming. It's picked up. Hurts going deep, has a man. It is caught. Dotson down.
Position in the pros.
Hurts lets it go. Complete. A.J. Brown. He's in. Touchdown. 35. Blitz coming. Hurts in trouble. Senses it. He's going to run for a first down and a lot more.
League.
Hurts running away. Going to take it himself. Gets by Dana. Hurts still in bounds. He's got to come with it. Hurts senses going to run again. And a big C. Jalen Hurts. Looking deep. Not there. Now it's going to flow one for Barkley, who maybe throw the dagger. Hurts going deep for it all. Devontae Smith. He has got it. Touchdown.
Jalen Hurts has been through the ringer, seconds away from winning a national championship, but just to lose. Getting benched just to see your backup win the NCAA championship. Having to transfer to a new school because your backup beat you out. Going to the Super Bowl after an amazing season just to lose off a field goal. To watching your team collapse at a 10-1 record and get embarrassed in the walk around. To this, beating the Kansas City Chiefs, a team many people believe were inevitable to win. And not only that, they kicked the crap out of them. And Jalen Hurts played a damn good game. Great throws, several great third down plays, and 3 total touchdowns. Jalen Hurts has gotten a lot of crap from media, fans, and heck, even myself. There's videos I say where I think he should play better and is not doing enough for this team. I did weekly videos, by the way, on the season, so you know, just a shameless plug right there if you want to go check those out. But Jalen flat out shut all of us up. He is the MVP of the Super Bowl and was the best player on that field in that game. And I'll say this, Jalen Hurts has a pretty good track record in the playoffs. Every season he started a majority of the games, they make the playoffs, and out of 9 playoff games, I think he's played good in 7 of 9 of those games. Dare I say, Jalen Hurts is a good playoff quarterback. But more importantly than that, Jalen Hurts is a Super Bowl MVP and a Super Bowl champion. Hey y'all, I hope you enjoyed the video. I wanted to make this video because I'm a fan of Jalen Hurts and was happy to see the guy win it all and playing great while at it. He's also the first quarterback I've watched since his freshman year in college to now. I've watched this guy in the national championship game in 2017. I watched him in the game where Tua came in and won the game. I've watched him when Tua got hurt and Hurts came in and won the game. I've seen him play LSU when they got destroyed. I watched his performance at Super Bowl 57, and I finally got to watch his performance at Super Bowl 59. He's the only QB I've seen through all phases of his professional football life, and it's a wild story at that, and I'll say it was a fun story to watch. But not only Hurts had a great story, even Saquon Barkley did, spending his time with the Giants, the Eagles, and having statistically the greatest running back season ever, and winning the Super Bowl. And Mekhi Becton, the Eagles tackle, has also had a great story, being on the Jets for 4 years and struggling to go into the Eagles and playing great and being a huge part of that team. Overall, just great stories to go all around. But thank you for watching, everybody. Please leave a like and subscribe, and that's all for me. Goodbye, y'all.